Hello, you. It's time for another episode of Adopted Geordies. I'm Andy Jaye, sat with Mr. Robert Lee. Now, we really appreciate those of you that got involved in the show, whether you've left us a review, given us a like, shared, followed, told your friends about us, got involved on social media. Whatever you've been doing to get involved, we see it, we thank you for it. Please keep on doing it. Today, we have a special guest joining us in the studio, a man who was part of the Entertainers, a man who has a fascinating career outside of playing for Newcastle as well. But nonetheless, he is a thoroughbred Geordie, and we're delighted to have him here. Mr. Lee Clark. How you doing, Lee?
Good, thanks, Andy. Great to be on.
We've got so much to discuss. Really appreciate you being here.
He's done a lot, hasn't he?
He's done a lot. I'm already thinking, I don't
This
know.
fella knows too much. That's the problem.
Well, go on, Rob. Open up your Aladdin's bag.
Where do you want to start? There's that much jump out.
No, I remember, I first remember when I got to the club, I remember that there was these young Geordies, like, led by him, Steve Howie, Steve Watson, Robbie Elliott, Alan Thompson, all these young Geordies. I mean, really good players, but God, they liked a night out. God, they liked a night out. It was my first of living in a big city. It was sort of like, wow, this is ridiculous what they every time we knew someone new come in, we got them out, didn't we?
We did.
Especially yous. Oh dear.
Got to make them feel at home, Rob.
Yeah. Show them around the town.
Yeah, get them settled in. That's part of the process, isn't it?
Did you have like an initiation thing? Was there like right, there's a new lad, he's got to do this?
Do you know what? It wasn't. It was just like, it just seemed to fall in my lap whenever we, we're always looking for a night out, at the right time. But, the lads would be like, oh, like examples we've had before. I've just settled in. I fancy having a look around the city, and then that was us. That was it. That was the line we needed, and it was right. You've got it. Anywhere you want to be, we'll take you. We'll show you the ropes. And once they had a taste of what the city was like in terms of how the people were with us, and that, because obviously football's a be all and end all up here, and they. When they see the footballers out and about, and the relationship in them days as well that the players had with the fans was so unique.
Yeah.
There was a lot of respect, and they could come up and speak to us at any time. Autographs, not so much photographs. They didn't have the phones, etc.
Probably for the best.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. And so there was a great rapport there, and so you got treated very well. And the lads who came up and came from different areas, they just found it strange at times, like even like old ladies coming up to you in the supermarket or at the petrol station, or just taking your kids to school, and they were like, wow, it's just constant. It's like, well played yesterday, or well played Saturday, or what happened? I mean, thankfully for us, it wasn't very rarely that we lost, so we never had we got the issue of getting told off so much so off them. But I think that was the unique thing. And then so we've got to help the players settle in, which we did.
I mean, I've heard some stories from Rob about these monumental nights, but the one I keep failing to follow up with is, what was it like the next morning? Did anyone ever show up in a bit of a state for training?
I would say 99.9% of the time we didn't, and that's why it could happen, because the manager would never have allowed the training standards to drop. And we've said it before, sometimes actually training was actually harder than games, and that's not being disrespectful to our opponents, because if you look at the quality of the squad we had when you were playing, small-sided games, or I was going to say 11v11, we very rarely did under Kevin. We didn't work on the opponent, but you were playing against a top-class player, so it was very difficult, and it was a high standard, it was a high tempo, high intensity. The only time I can is the famous one is when David Ginola first came. We played at Rushden and Diamonds, who were a non-league team at the time, and they were looking, that a wealthy investor, and they were looking to try and get into the Football League, and we went and opened their new stadium in pre-season, and it was a midweek, and on the bus coming home, David had said, he was living in a hotel at the time, he'd like to go into the city. Well, that was the line. Me and Watto straight up, we'll take you out. So a pub not too far away from where he was living in a hotel, we said we'd meet him 1 o'clock. We took him down there, and it got to about 4, and he'd come to me and Watto, and he said, listen, thank you lads, really appreciate that, I've had a great afternoon. I'm off back to the hotel for a steam sauna, jacuzzi, and we were like, no, it doesn't happen like that, David. You're out. And we brought him into the city later on, and remember looking at him like later on that night, and he's just shaking his head, you know. And he's had a great night, don't you? But it was pre-season, so the next day we had a really tough session in terms of the running. We had 2 runs in at Durham. We had the Forest Run and the River Run, and this day we're doing the River Run. And if you were quite far ahead of someone, you could see them coming up the other side of the river.
Right.
I mean, what in the physical stuff were good like that. You know, we could be at the front. Then we've seen David with his hands on his knees at the back, absolutely in bits. And I remember him doing a story just a few years ago saying about what he was walking into in British football after that day, us having a full day on the beverage, and then being at the front in the running. So welcome to British football, David. But I think the big key was, for me, when I look back at it, you'll always listen to people who've been in successful teams and they say, yeah, we weren't just a good team, but it was the togetherness. But ours was really genuine. So, like, we would go out as a group of lads, but would also go out with partners and wives and stuff like that. And if ever there was a couple of lads that organised something, the rest of the group would get involved. So it was never just little cliques. Yeah, it was everybody.
Brilliant.
You were getting the chance. You could decline, but not many people did. But you know, there's times we went out just the lads. Loads of times went out with partners, each other's houses, all that type of stuff. You know, and there was that camaraderie and spirit. But what also we had as well, we had drive. We were prepared to fall out with each other on the football pitch, but never personally, because were desperate to win. We'd rather fall out with each other, get a result, than not get a result. That was more, and then totally forget about it. It wasn't even mentioned, probably not even an apology, because it was just back to laughing and joking with each other. So it was great, and I always look back to say that was very unique. It's been hard to replicate that.
Do you miss it?
I miss that, absolutely. It's like when we get together for, you know, reunions, it's like we haven't been away from each other. Yeah. We just fall back into place like a jigsaw puzzle, all back in, and the banter flies again, and it's the same old, you know, same lads cracking the same type of stuff, and it's brilliant. It's great to be around it. I look forward to it when we've got those nights, and when you go at the match, you know, you're going to bump into a few of the lads and that, and it just flows, you know. It's not put on, it just flows naturally.
Yeah. They say that everybody, when they get a bit older, has a set number of memories that they love to relive. What's one from your playing time here that you will go back to whenever you can? It just puts you right
on the
back in
pitch.
there. Yeah.
Oh wow! Well, we had so many. God, I mean, the promotion year when we'd won the night we won promotion at Grimsby, it just went mad. Took what hours to get home from Grimsby, and you know, it was a Tuesday night. We obviously celebrated like you should do. And then we had a rearranged game on the Thursday, and some of us were still under the influence, I think. And Kevin got so mad at half time, didn't he?
Yeah.
He said, "That's absolutely useless what you've performed. In fact, I'm going home."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he left. We ended up winning 2-1, we're 1-0 down. But then on the Sunday, when the cameras came, and we were playing Leicester, who were in the playoffs, so there weren't any duffers.
Yeah.
And we just put on a performance like it was just like, it's the dream performance. Like, we're 6-0 up in half an hour, 35 minutes. The football was just, you know, the talk about it today, playing out from the back. I can't remember like our goalies rolling it out to people up, you know, doing unnecessary passing around the back. But I just look back at that game, and when I see footage of it, some of the one-touch football in their half of the pitch is just like ridiculous. And then you've got the following season, you know, you've got the games, you know, the derby matches, the derby at Roker, when there wasn't meant to be any Newcastle fans there.
Yeah.
And Les and Pedro score the headers, and then there's pockets of Newcastle fans jumping up all over, and they're always special games that you know, you want to win, or you certainly don't want to lose. The Man United first games in Europe,
Of course.
you know, see his hat-trick.
Yeah.
When me and him done a gig a few months ago, and he brought up a great point. Kevin's inspirational team talk beforehand, talking about lads, you know, because obviously none of us most of us hadn't played in European competition, and talking about certainly in the away leg, you know, got to play it tight. It's just, you know, keep it tight, no risks. If you go home with a draw, it's not a bad result, then you can go and win the tie. And obviously wins the game 4-0, I think, wasn't it, or something? 5-0.
5-0, yeah.
5-0. And Kevin leans across to Terry and full voice says, "Let's told you, Terry, they never listen." So it was it's a difficult question because I could reel off 10, 15 games for you. You know, Kevin would always say when we went to London, this is the place where people sit up and take notice,
Right.
go and win, and you know, we're quite regularly done it. You know, Tottenham, Arsenal, Chelsea, wherever, you know, would get positive results.
And how much of it, when you're on the pitch in the middle of a game, which you know your team is dominating, you know you guys have got this. It's to the point where it's almost easy. How much of it is you, little Geordie you, thinking this is unbelievable, and how much of it is like this is just normal? This is just what we do.
No, I never thought it was normal because I never thought it was normal that I could ever have the chance to do it.
So you were always living the dream.
First game at 8 years of age as a fan in the Gallagher end in 1980. Never thought dreamt that you could do that, but you never thought it was achievable.
Yeah.
For someone like me from the East End of the city, you didn't know how someone became a professional footballer. So then you do it, but then you become part of one of the club's most iconic eras and iconic squads. It's mind-boggling. It is. It's still weird now when I sometimes go around the city and people recognise you, you know. It's more like granddads and that now, you know. The young kids very rarely, when they point them out, they're looking at you like that, who's he, you know, and, I just wish we could have topped it with a trophy. I'm jealous of the current bunch, I've got to admit.
Exactly
I'm delighted. I'm a fan.
Yeah.
Don't get us wrong, I'm buzzing. That day at Wembley was fantastic.
It was.
And I want more. But I'm jealous of them lads because they're special now in this club's history. Very special. And that's all we were missing. We were just missing that trophy.
But the thing is, there's a lot of you entertainers that have said similar, delighted for it, but wish you'd delivered it. But as a fan, obviously, Rob loves to remind me how I never got to achieve my dream of playing for the club because I was crap. But the fact of the matter is, yeah, as with you, it's unbelievable that we've now won a trophy. It's brilliant. We've been waiting 70 years for it. But that doesn't dim the light of the entertainers. That doesn't dim what joy you brought to us.
Do you know what's weird? I've even had people say, they've still got a way to catch up you guys.
Yeah.
And that's a strange thing to hear when you think, wow, they've just done what nobody's done for this club. We're over 70 years, won a domestic trophy.
Well, mix the teams, right? Rob and I have done this before. You know, the entertainers versus...
Well, there's so many similarities. So many similarities to the group. You know, I think the manager is... he's a manager who wants to play on the front foot. He's a manager who wants to play attacking, entertaining football. He gets the city. You know, very much... Kevin got it straight away in 82 when he came as a footballer and he dragged out the doldrums and the city, and then he done the same again in the 90s. Quite unbelievable. And so Eddie gets that. The type of players that have been brought in, he's hardly had any bad signings in terms of recruitment. Kevin's signings were just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Every time there was a new player came through the door, it improved the team, it improved the squad. Because obviously I was there from the start. The easiest thing for me to talk about the coaching and improvement, I had to improve. If I didn't improve, I wouldn't have hung around. I wouldn't have been around this group because every time a player came, you've got to remember different. It wasn't transfer windows. You had
it was any time, wasn't it?
You had the last Thursday in March that used to close the season's window. So you could bring a player in any time. And the players that were coming in, you know, every single time the bar was getting moved up. And it didn't matter what position the player was coming in.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's and like I say, with the similarities, you know, I look at young Lewis Miley, you know, and I see he's turned into a versatile player locally. Well, we had that with Steve Watson.
Yeah.
Steve played every outfield position for us. I remember, I think one on one occasion on the Saturday, he's playing right back in a Premier League game, and then in a League Cup quarter-final, he's playing centre-forward against Liverpool and scored a wonder goal to win.
Yeah.
And it's like, he even had to warm up as the sub-keeper. Kevin wouldn't put a keeper. Kevin wouldn't put a goalie on the bench because he knew he had Watto to go in. I mean, it's a classic story. I don't know, Steve might have tells it, but Kevin and the coaching staff said to him, listen, go out early with the goalkeepers and do the warm-up with them, because in training, because they used to go out like in half an hour, 45 minutes to do their own personal goalkeeping work with the goalkeeping coach. So Watto went out and done that, and then as we went out to do the warm-up, come running over, and Derek Fazakli, the coach, says, what you doing? He says, I'm coming to warm up, Faz. He says, oh, you've messed me numbers up, man. Get back with the goalies. And Watto's trudging off with putting his gloves back on. And so, yeah, you've got that. You've got the type of players, the way they try and play the game. I mean, it's the similarities, but, they mightn't realise it. They will later on in life and further down their career. They've done the ultimate thing.
I think
the hardest thing for us as well, when luckily it was really unlucky, is our group, to play Champions League, you had to be the champions.
Yeah.
And, because I think the lowest we ever finished in those 5 years in the Premier League under Kevin was 6th, and we were gutted. I think, second, third, yeah. So we would have, in today's world, we would have been Champions League qualifiers every single year,
Yeah.
So, that's the thing. But, for me now, I'm just a normal fan again, and it's gone full circle, and I'm loving what I'm seeing. Because I had obviously a spell a few years ago before this new ownership group, a new manager, where it was a tough watch.
It was a tough watch. Yeah, it was pretty brutal.
It was depressing.
It was horrible.
Because we were just there to survive, and the type of football. I felt sorry for the players, because like I just touched on before, when you're a player and you think you're a decent player, you want to play with better players because they make you look better. If you're playing with better players, you become a better player yourself, because they make the games become so easy for you. You seem to have so many options when you've got the ball. It's quite simplicity, the game. Like, for example, it made, when we had that spell, and it was like, so me and Rob in the middle, and Ginola on the left, Gillespie on the right, Peter playing just off Les. It was simple because Ginola wanted the ball to feet in tight areas, and Keith wanted to row over the top in front of him for his pace. So for likes of me and Rob, midfield players, you knew what you had to do.
Yeah.
You didn't even have to be told, because you could see it with David. He wanted it, and he'd come with his back to play. He wanted it tight so he could twist the full back. Whereas Keith just wanted, Keith's quite unique, and a lot of quick players think they can start dribbling, where Keith just was like, just put the ball in front of us and I'll use my speed. I'll beat any full back in a race, and then I'll just put it in first time. So it was.
The only difference with the teams now is tactically we've done that. When I tell people we did no tactics, like, so they must have done some. We didn't do anything.
It was left down to us, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that in a derogatory. He was brilliant. He knew this when he was bringing players in. He knew that they understood the game.
They'd get it.
Yeah.
Players just go and play.
And he wasn't. If you notice him, he wasn't like always. He would be in his technical area just watching the game, but he wasn't have to throw information on all the time. The odd time he'd be upset with something or whatever, but he was there. And what he done is we trained how we played. We respected our opponents, but he never give us. I've been involved in certain times where you think, wow, this team were playing a world beaters, because they get built up that much.
Yeah.
You're thinking, dear me, but what about us? What we good at, And that was it. He just went, do your jobs to the way I know you can play, and if we get the little bit of luck you require, we'll win the game. And we'd never practiced set plays, did we? 4 against. We never done 11v11.
Never, not once.
To do honestly, small-sided games. Shooting drills, passing drills, keep balls, fitness drills. He used to join in. Terry Mack would join in the shooting. Still one of the best finishers. The little dinks and all that, and it was tough. It was intense, but it was enjoyable.
Yeah.
And then at Christmas time, we had a council-owned training ground, so it was open to the public. you could easily get 5, 6, 7,000 coming to watch
Yeah.
we train.
Yeah.
And then you'd get the burger stalls coming.
People watching them from the ice cream van.
Yeah. So you were getting, obviously it wasn't social media, but you had people watching you train and they'd be speaking. Oh, he wasn't very good in training. So you're getting judged just like a match day. But it was just, it became natural, and it was just, that's why that day when Newsom was up, didn't we, Charlton?
Yeah.
When he quit.
Right.
When he came back on the bus, if you remember, there's a picture of him, he's got a woolly hat on, but he hasn't even got it pulled down properly. It was up here.
Like a Santa
And he had his
Claus.
big coat on, and he got back on the bus like that, and it was like, because we got them in a replay.
Yeah.
And just thought, he's not the same bubbly self, like. And then obviously, because we had, I think the replay came straight. I'm not sure if it came straight or whatever, but he came in the next day and he wasn't there. And Terry and Arthur had the meeting and they said it, and you could have heard a pin drop, every single player. And what he done is created such a great thing. Even lads who weren't playing, they'd be upset, but everybody was genuinely gutted when he left.
Yeah, I bet.
Every single member of that squad. It was like...
And the fan base.
I think we'd have definitely won something if he'd have stayed.
Yeah.
The length of time.
Definitely.
Like Alex Ferguson as well. We were so close, and
he
didn't leave because we had bad results. We were winning every week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we finished
Brilliant
second
side.
again that season.
Yeah.
But it was just, obviously, it was like, you never think it's going to come to an end, do you? And when it does, it's like a thunderbolt. It was like, wow, what's happening?
Yeah, it was gutting. It was gutting.
So, it's, yes, with the tactical stuff and all that, you can, because you will get people who will try and criticise that, but he knew what he was doing. He was bringing intelligent footballers in, so why did he have to try and tell them to try and play the game?
Yeah. Well, and he was inspiring you and playing with you and coaching you and training.
He was in terms of how he made you feel 10 feet tall when you went out that door, out the dressing room door. You were the best player in the world in your position. And his man management was just like unbelievable. The things he would do at the training ground, when my first kid was born, it was on a Monday, and we used to have a Monday night out. So we met up afterwards, and obviously the champagne was flowing. Jack had just been born. Next day, he knew what had happened, and that'd be a bit worse for wear. He just pulled us to one side, and I just had a glass of champagne with him while the lads trained, And it was just, and there's a present from him and his wife Jean to me and the family, It was just like little things like that. I think, well, what's so good about that? But it is, it's man management.
Yeah.
He was, for us, I don't know how Rob felt. Rob's a bit older than me, but for me as a young lad, it's like a father figure. Do you know what I mean? It was like, so even when he told us off, he was like my dad, which he he had to a few times. I
was telling him about that. Remember we went to Southampton.
Southampton.
And I said to him yesterday, I said, and we're not playing well, but I said, Nash was one of our best players, and that he was playing really well. I was playing terrible. And you think the ball comes up, and I'm looking at you, and I'm thinking, I'm coming off here, and I'm coming off here. And all of a sudden, his numbers come up. He's looked at me and gone, you're playing shit.
I remember it because Peter Beard's he's seen us, and he was like, calm down. And I was like, Pedro, this is a joke. And at the Dell, it was, I don't know if you've ever been there, the old Southampton ground. It was so tight to the pitch. So I've gone over, and it was remember the old Magic Sponge book? It was a big steel thing. And I've buttered that, and it killed me foot, but I didn't want to show him. And he went, come on, Nash, sit. And I says, no, what are you doing? That's effing rubbish. And he said, come on. And I went, no, F off. And the tunnel was in the corner at the Dell. And I start walking down, and he chased after us.
Oh, no.
And he starts smacking my backside like my dad would. And he slung his back in there, and he told us, get in there and shut up. And I went, F off. And we got back in the game, and then the Tizier scored his usual wonder goal, which he did for about 5 years against us. I think he had his goal of the season comp was just against us, and the beat were 2-1. Well, that was it. The result didn't matter. I come in, and he just let rip with me. Like, he just was like, didn't even talk about the game.
Wow.
And then got back, just about to get back into Durham, because we got the bus back from Southampton, which is a journey in itself.
Yeah.
10 minutes from there, and he sent Terry Mack down. Terry said, Nash, Gaffer wants you to play in the reserves tomorrow at Leicester away. So I goes down there, and then the kit man hadn't packed the boots, he'd packed the dirty training kit from training. So We had a director called Peter Mallinger who had a sports shop, so he went and got with some boots. I was wearing plastic goalers and all that. And I'm thinking, I've got to do something about this. And he dropped me. It was my 21st birthday in the week, and we were playing Wimbledon away in the cup, and he dropped us for the game. I'd done like a big public apology before, because I knew, to this day, if I hadn't have done that, I would have been gone. I would have been out the door.
And apologised.
I had to do it publicly.
Yeah.
So I went to see him, and he says, just go and play in the game and be a good example like you always are. And I thought, I've got to do something here, like. And I went and called the press officer and got the local media and TV stations, and I've done a public apology to him, to the players, to the chairman and the board and the fans, And I think that's what saved us, really. And then, yeah, so, and it just things like that. It was just... the blend was unbelievable. We had Terry Mack, who was just brilliant in the dressing room. Because what used to happen, right? Kevin never used to name the team till before kick-off. So we called it a custard pie if you got left out. And it got to the stage where waiting for the team and lads would be putting towels round their necks like bibs, waiting for the custard pie to hit. And Terry would come in and give you the curly finger because the gaffer wanted to speak to you. And it was like, oh, man. And it was like, yes. But, he was brilliant. He'd come in, and I think he used to just listen to him most of the time. Then he'd go, because when I went into management, Terry was my assistant, and Terry was like, would come and like explain things. He'd like, the players are normal, just human beings. They might have issues at home with their family or their friends, or, do you know what I mean? You just think, oh, why is he not doing, what's he off the boil for? And so Terry was good at doing that stuff, and he was laughing minute as well. It was great crack. Then you obviously had Faz, who was a great coach. Faz knew how to put sessions on for elite footballers, Because I look at it now, when you look at the big clubs, and I look at who's been successful with big players, and you look at Ancelotti.
Yeah.
And I've heard a lot of people talk about him, and that his man management's brilliant, and he just he gives the players what they need. If you're a top player, you don't need all this tactical stuff, do you? You know what the game's about. So, and I think that's what that group was like. It was brilliant. The staff and the players had a great bond.
Love it. What a brilliant time to reminisce about. Lee, there's a couple of things that we've got to talk about. One of them you talked about, you mentioned Terry Mack being your assistant. You have gone into management, and there is one remarkable moment. I think you already know what I'm going to ask you about. I hope you're happy to talk about it, and that is Sudan.
It's been all over the place.
I said I wanted to manage abroad, but that was different. I managed the same club twice, Did you realise that?
Yeah.
So I went there the first time was before, obviously, the horrendous civil war that's going on there now. And I lived there, but it was outside of the hotel. There was nothing to do. There was no social life. But the football was mad. The team I was managing was playing in the African Champions League. We're getting like 85,000 to a game, and that it was just like, and it's just obsessive. Like, it was like first couple of training sessions at the stadium, like 20,000 turning up with even the ultras, with the old megaphone. We're just training, like. So, that was a brilliant experience. But you see what just happened in the AFCON? Not a surprise to me.
Really? With that final?
No,
that final was nuts.
They're mad. They're mad. And I used to say to the people there, you've got a great product in terms of how African people love football, but you're not taken serious in world football because of the accusations of corruption and not doing things right. We played, it was during when the COVID was easing off and stuff like that, but you still had to get tested to travel.
Yeah.
So when we were obviously playing in the Champions League, we had to go, Tanzania and different places like that. And two things happened on that trip. I remember saying to the doctor, we got on the flight, and I said to the doctor, never had a COVID test? He says, don't worry, everyone's passed. All right, no problem. Gets into the other country where we're playing. In CAF, who's the equivalent to UEFA, they were meant to organise a hospital where you go and get tested to make sure. Nothing happened, so we had to go to a local hospital. It took us about 5 hours for the full group to get the tests done. So obviously it's the night before the game, hanging around.
Yeah.
Lads are
Oh, great.
frustrated, you know. So there's the start. Name me team. You know, when you have your final meeting at the hotel before the lads get on the bus, then it's up to them. Doing that, Doc walks in. He says, Coach, 9 of the starting 11 have failed that COVID test. And I said, 9? And so I had to put 9, and a lot of the lads on the bench were youngsters or players coming back from long-term injury.
No.
But what had happened, the coach of the opponent managed the club before me, so he knew who the good players were. And we had 2 players with a first name called Saif, and the one he picked for the test pots that he tested positive wasn't as good as the one that he missed out. So when he was playing, I had the CAF guy saying, he failed the test. I says, how do you know? And it was like, honestly, it was just. And then I went to Oman for 6 months, and unbelievable. Like, the facilities were ridiculous. The stadium, the training ground was just amazing. The apartment they put us on the beach, beautiful place. I lived on a coastal area called Salalah, and it was stunning. But nobody was interested.
Right.
Stadium was like this beautiful 25,000 seater, get like 600. It was like, my first game, I was doing the team talk with the help of an interpreter. Door flies open. John Burridge walks in. Remember Budgie?
Yeah.
John Burridge walks in. He's the goalie coach for the opponent, shouting his head off at his dash. I'm thinking, everyone's looking at him like that. So I quit from there. And as I was travelling back, I got the call, would you fancy coming back to manage me again, the Champions League? But they were then based in Cairo,
Okay.
Al Mariq, because of the conflict. And this is an unbelievable. This just sums it up. So played in the Champions League, and we're obviously have to play our home games in Egypt, and we drew a club called Al Ahly, the Real Madrid of African football from Egypt. They 90,000 supporters and crazy. And we playing them, but we were using their second stadium, which was still 40,000 old seat for our home games. So we drew with them in the first game. We obviously played them twice in the group stages as it was. And then I had a really good analyst lad from over there. And I said to him, listen, I says, you go up in the stands, you've got me mobile. When we play a game, you can get in touch with us if anything's happening. So I have me mobile. And we've sent a few calls back to each other, blah, blah, blah. And then the second half, we're getting beat 2-1. My phone starts ringing, and I'm thinking, I picked it up, and it was one of the directors saying, get him off. I'm like, who is this? And he's like, I'm a director. Take him off. He's rubbish. Why don't you play him? He's a new sign. And I'm like, and then he kept ringing. And at the end, I was just like, yeah, stick your team up your backside. And it was just like absolute carnage. I could see everyone, I say to them, what's happening here? But that is just like African football in a nutshell. So,
well, because you talked about having to change venues where you were training and so on. This is because there was massive conflict in the region, wasn't there? You were there when there was when the government was overthrown, weren't you?
I think just before that happened, that's when I left. But the obviously they knew it was the build up of it, and they knew what was coming. And that's why they moved them across to Egypt to play, And so I never got to finish the group stages of the Champions League the second time. That I just got out. And
well, that wasn't your doing, was it?
No, it's just honestly, it was it was weird, and it was so passionate about the sport and that. But honestly, it's just mad.
Wow. We have a fellow adopted Geordie on the panel with us who's currently in Australia called Raoul Coley. He's a comedian. He's a Geordie comedian. And he sent us a question for you, which we have been deliberately avoiding asking you. You might not be surprised when you see it.
Right.
But I'm going to play it to you.
Lee Clark, you wrote yourself into Geordie folklore and ended a very promising career in what was probably Sunderland's best ever side when you turned up at the 1999 FA Cup final wearing that SMB t-shirt. Walk us through exactly what happened from getting the ticket to deciding it was a good idea to put on this shirt. Just tell us how that day all unfolded. And also, do you have any regrets about it?
There's a shock, isn't it? It was a nap. It was a nap that was coming up, wasn't it? So I'd been the previous year, because obviously the 2 cup finals on the bounce.
Yep.
And
Both of them awful.
Yeah.
the kit man Ray Tom would give us, me and my pals, some strips. So we wore the strips, and Peter Reid, the manager at Sunderland, got wind of it, and he was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh no." He said, "It's like, how lad? I know you're a black and white, but come on, use your head." So I asked his permission, to go to the second one. He was like, "Go, but don't effing wear any colours." So what happened was, we went down a couple of days before the final. Me and some pals stayed in London. Les got sorted out with some stuff happening down in London, Les Ferdinand. And then we went to Baker Street. A Geordie owned a pub in Baker Street. And as I got out the black cab, this lad just whipped this top on us. And if you remember the picture, I had like a cricket hat on.
Like a bucket hat.
Bucket hat, yeah. And I was like that. And it was the day before, it was miles before camera phones, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But you remember the old disposable ones?
Yeah,
Everybody had them, and they were clicking for fun. And I was looking at the top, then I went like that, and then took it off eventually. And I remember walking to the bar with my mate, and he went, "Oh, that could come back to haunt you, couldn't it?" And I went, "Do you reckon?" And then thought nothing more of it. You know, obviously the final, and then stayed over. And it was the last weekend before we're going back to pre-season, because it was the Northumberland play weekend. And me and Stevie Watson were going to the races the day out of Saturday. And phone rings, media, we've got a picture of you in the SMB t-shirt. Rang the agent at the time and said, "Paul," he says, "Yeah." I says, "You know that commission you've made off some deals, you're going to have to earn it now, mate. I'm in desperate trouble." And so a couple of days later, we got called into Bob Murray's office. Reedy was still away, and he was on the speakerphone. Fixtures had come out. Sunderland were back in the Premier League. First game was Chelsea away at Stamford Bridge. Chairman's like, "Lee, obviously all the spiel, I'm disappointed. We all know your background. I'd warned Peter about this when he wanted to sign you. He wasn't just signing a Newcastle United player. He was signing a Newcastle United supporter and all that." So, and I said, "No problem." And Reedy's on the other end. "I told you not to wear thin colours and blah, blah, blah. And if you think you're leaving, there's no chance you'll be in that team that plays at Chelsea. Anyway, as I'm on holiday, I'm going for a glass of vino," and slams the phone down. Bob's like, "Listen, Lee, Peter's obviously upset. We all know around this table you can never play for the club again." Which was fine. Me and my agent already had the deal lined up to go to Fulham. And but still a negotiation. So I got back into pre-season, and obviously I had to go in. Well, there was fans at the gate, and they ended up having to make a separate entrance for us round the back. Had to drive my car about 300 yards over a farmer's field. It was like, I mean, some of the things that happened. The day I'd done the press conference, I turned up and I had a lovely pinstripe suit on, but it was like black and white. And he turned up and he was like, I took the old man over and he went, "You've got a black and white suit on, what are you doing?" I was like, "It's nice. What's the matter with you?"
Yeah.
They'd got us part of my deal was a nice Jaguar car. So I went up to pick it up from Hortonley Spring, and it was red with cream leather. And I was like to the lad, "Nah." I seen one in the showroom and it was black or white. And yes, "Can I not have that one?"
Yeah.
He said, "Oh, let us see the manager." And he went, "Yeah, you can have that one." So I remember pulling into a game, and John Ficklin was the chief executive at Sunderland. He said, "Lee, I seen the car that they ordered for you. It was red." I says, "Oh, there was a problem with it, John. So they just give us this one." He said, "What, black and white?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, aye." So it was, and I try to be honest with him, right? I try to be, because I believe, like, Rob will tell you, one thing that could never be thingied against is whether I was playing good, bad, indifferent. Always give me maximum every time. Training pitch, football pitch. Never could have seen myself playing for Sunderland against Newcastle. Played for Fulham against Newcastle, and it was my job, but couldn't have never done it. Couldn't have never. And that's not right when someone's paying you good money as a footballer.
Yeah.
So it was. I didn't deliberately do the t-shirts. It just fell into place. But it's. I wish I had some commission off them t-shirts. By the way,
They did well, didn't they?
Oh, did they not? And it. I mean, I've only been back to Stadium of Light for one game, and that was for a time we had Derby. I think it was one of Sam Allardyce's first games as Sunderland manager. They beat us 3-0.
Yeah.
And I remember getting out my car and shut the door, and there was a police van beside us, and there was police all standing outside. Nothing to do with me, it was just where I'd parked the car. And I just remember hearing this voice and saying, "Are you taking the mick?"
Ah,
I thought, policeman, policewoman, a policeman turn. And I turned round, my good pal Alan Thompson, his sister was a policewoman, and it was her. She said, "What are you doing here?" As if this isn't a powder keg game to start with, and you turn up. Thankfully, there was no bother. So she said, "Oh, that's what she said. Don't think you'll be getting any extra protection off me, you idiot."
oh dear. Brilliant.
So I mean, I've seen Bob Murray since not long ago, you know, and I had a good crack with him. Nice guy he was, and he was telling us the stories like how Peter had come, and it was through Paul Bracewell really.
Yeah.
You know, when Rob first come, Brace was like my mentor. He was the older centre midfield player, and I was only 18, 19 coming through, and it was through Brace really who instigated all. But obviously Bob had explained to Peter, like, listen, you know, you're not just signing a Newcastle player, like, he's a staunch black and white. No, I want him. So when I was speaking to Bob, he says, "Lee," he said, "do you know how many season tickets were sold after we signed you?" And I thought, oh, well, big signing. When I was your record signing, 10,000? He went, 0. But thankfully, they must have sold them with other signings, maybe it's Kev Phillips and that, because we used to get full houses. But it was, it's...
Hey, you did well for him. Did your job.
Yeah,
Got 'em up.
listen, do you know what? I always say over my career, I've played for some great guys, some great fellas, and Reedy's up there. You know, it was funny. I used to get in on a Monday morning, and he would say, like, would get in early, and I'd have a cup out with him. "Come on and tell us what your mate's been singing over the road about us." I says, "Not really bad, Gaffer, just you've got a monkey's heat."
Monkey's
that's
heat,
all
yeah.
right."
That's
He
right.
used to just laugh, and he said,
Yeah.
"You know what? I love going," because he used to go over to St. James as a Sunderland manager to scout games, scout teams
Did
and
he?
players. Oh, yeah.
I used to love singing it. Peter Reed's
Yeah,
got
aye.
fucking monkeys.
Listen,
Yeah.
he loved all the crack. He's a good guy. He's a
He
top
came
fella.
across as a good guy. to
He
be
is a
fair.
top fella.
Yeah.
He's a top fella.
Yeah. I never minded him managing them, you know.
Aye.
I was never.
Well, I remember going to a gig one night that him and Kevin were doing down in Wynyard in Teesside, and they were both on the stage together. And stupidly, I got up to go to the toilet, and they both said at the same time, "By the way, we're only 30. We've got grey hair after managing him all this time."
You put them through it.
Aye, aye.
Lee, it's been an absolute pleasure reminiscing and remembering the entertainers through your eyes, and also hearing about some of your mad adventures that you've gone on to achieve as well.
He's had some career.
It's been, I mean, what a life you've lived and are living. Absolutely brilliant. Obviously, you were here for one of our earlier interviews that will have gone out by now, so you know what Rob's going to ask.
Mm-hmm.
So you can just jump to it if you like. Who's the most famous person in your phone?
You're going to find this completely weird. Rob will. Jason Donovan.
No. He lives right. His wife's a Geordie, isn't she?
That's how I became friends with him, through his wife. She's a massive Newcastle fan.
Yeah.
And we got them to come to the game a few years ago in hospitality, and they sat with us and introduced herself. And whenever they come up, I meet up with them and have a cuppa
I love
with
it.
Jason Donovan.
That's brilliant.
I
See?
reached
That's
out to
random.
him when we started the show. I reached out to him because sometimes we get famous people who are fans of the club on, as
Yeah.
well as players and legends and so on. And he replied. He was like, "Andy, I love the club, but I don't know enough about it to be able to talk on a podcast about it."
A few games later, I got him tickets, and then he was gigging at the Theatre Royal one. So I done him for a couple of tickets, didn't I? And
Brilliant.
he reciprocated very well. So, but
Technicolor dream
Lee
code.
Clark and Jason Donovan, there's never been a combo.
That's random. See,
They should do a tour.
It's a great question.
Yeah.
It's a great.
That's
We
brilliant.
get some crazy answers, I bet.
Absolutely.
we've had a few.
Yeah, but he's just making sure that he's always the winner, aren't you? Well, actually,
No-
it's your
nowhere
boy
near
with
it,
Ryan
yeah,
Reynolds,
nowhere
isn't
near
it?
it,
Ryan Reynolds,
Yeah,
yeah. Well,
can't beat that.
that'll be some what Elliot's got from the Wrexham stuff.
he's
That's
got
on
some, yeah.
that's on a different planet.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Can't top it.
Yeah, can't top it,
We
mate.
keep trying.
We will do.
But
Someone will
well,
get
I
Donald
mean,
Trump's.
Kabaya was close, wasn't he, with President Macron?
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, that's not bad.
That's not a bad one.
It's not a bit of a mic drop, isn't it?
That's not a bad one.
Yeah, yeah, amazing. Lee, thank you so much.
Hey, delighted to be
an
on,
absolute
lads.
Pleasure.
Thanks.
I've loved it, and I'm absolutely confident you guys will have enjoyed it as well. Drop us a share, like, follow, give us a comment, give us a review, say something to Rob because he does read your messages, don't you,
I
Rob?
read them all, every single one.
You're always here for it. We'll be back with another Adopted Geordies in the very near future. Away the lads.